Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, episode number 129 of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, we will look back at Denny Hamlin's big win over the weekend at Bristol, get reaction, what it means for the playoff picture, look ahead to this weekend's race in Texas. Also, we'll dive into the top headlines going on across the sport as we were saddened by the passing of Sherry Pollex. We'll discuss that coming up later on, as we'll also discuss the big changes going on with Trackhouse and Spire and Zane Smith, and we'll get to our Ask David segment coming up at the end of the show. Jerry Jordan is here with us. We'll bring him in coming up in a bit, and look forward to having him on the show this week. But first and foremost, we bring in the one and only, the Starr himself, David Starr, here with us. David, always a pleasure, my friend. Denny Hamlin getting the win. I know that he's only got, 3 wins on the year, but I feel like that it feels like he's won more than that. That team has run really well all year, and they're looking like a championship caliber team. Is this Denny's year to finally get it done, David?
Well, I hope so. I don't know if he has a whole lot of people cheering for him, but he'd be kind of cool. You don't want to see him be like a Mark Martin. Mark was a true champion. I mean, won lots and lots of races. Just and he never got that championship. And we all love Mark Martin, and he did an amazing job, a superstar of our sport, but. I'd like to see Denny win a championship, man. He's been, this year, just talking about, he's had so much speed throughout the year. Every race you're talking about Denny Hamlin, whether they can complete the race, and different circumstances obviously come to play, but they've had a lot of speed. And, we talked about it a lot, Tyler. They got a lot of momentum on their side, and I think it's coming at the right time, but yeah, if you didn't talk about Joe Gibbs Racing and Denny Hamlin as a favorite to win the championship, I think we'd be highly mistaken ourselves. I think they're one or two that along with Byron, with William Byron, and you got to look at Kyle Larson. I mean, it's going to be interesting moving forward.
Dominic Harlagone joins us right now as well. Dom, I got to say, I know that Denny's a bit older now, but with the contract stuff taken care of, him being more mature and everything here, I feel like we're seeing a more relaxed Denny Hamlin, that he's driving loose, that he's enjoying himself out there. He's not uptight. We saw him embrace the villain role of sorts and, playing to the crowd, saying, I beat your driver, and then talking about it in his podcast and all that. I like this version of Denny Hamlin, and it might be the difference between him winning a championship this year compared to years previously when he hasn't been able to get the job done. Like he's out there driving with nothing to lose, it seems.
And it seems like there's always that Joe Gibbs Racing driver to dislike. It seemed like fans disliked Tony Stewart when he drove the 20 car for whatever reason. Same with Kyle Busch over the years. Denny Hamlin embracing that role of Joe Gibbs Racing. And I think to add on, too, this has been a theme of the show the entire year, and I'm curious to see what Jerry thinks about this, too, when we get him in here in a few, is that Denny Hamlin is pulling the Bobby Allison. Bobby Allison won his championship in his 18th year of full-time racing. Denny Hamlin is in year 18. He now has, I don't think, a record he wants to hold on to. He has the most wins without winning a championship. He broke that tie this weekend with Junior Johnson. But 51 wins, 12th on the all-time wins list. I've been saying it all year. Denny Hamlin, the favorite to win the championship, and he is looking as good as ever, and he's looking like a championship contender. That championship 4 is going to include that 11 team.
Yeah, I think so. And we've seen in the past, David, that sometimes these veterans, when they've been there, done that, they are determined when it comes to getting that championship, the win at all costs approach. When Kevin Harvick won his one championship, found a way, whatever it took, just dominated, got it done. Tony Stewart with his 3rd and final championship didn't enter the playoff with any wins. This might be that type of run that we're seeing from Denny Hamlin, where he goes out and he wins at all costs to make sure this championship is his?
Well, I mean, yeah, they have a lot of momentum on their side, and Denny Hamlin and that Joe Gibbs Racing organization, they're a championship caliber team. We've known that for years, and different circumstances and things have happened, and he hasn't achieved that goal. But man, I think this year, 2023, I mean, it's not his to lose, but and I agree with what Dominic said. I mean, I think you'll see him. Denny will be one of the last four going for the championship when they get to Phoenix, but it's interesting because his teammate Kyle Larson's lots of speed. They've really been on fire here lately too. That Hendrick organization is amazing. You look at William Byron. You know what I mean? It's it's whoever wins it. It's not going to be given to them. They're going to have to earn it. And I mean, it's just interesting. I would never thought that Joey Logano and Kevin Harvick wasn't going to be part of the, moving forward. But anyway, you can never count out Hendrick Motorsports. I mean, we talk about Chase Elliott and what a rough season it's been for him and guy's teammate. Shoot, guys, I'm going to blank here. The 48 car.
Alex Bowman.
Alex Bowman, they were a little off this year, which is, very interesting and unlike that organization to have. But man, the other two cars have plenty of speed, man. They're fast, and it's going to be a war all the way up to the end,
Yeah, I think so. War is a great way to describe it there for sure. Our guest this week, Dominic, is a guy that you and I and David, we all know very well. He is very entertaining. He's got a great story. He's been on this show a couple different times. I believe this is his third appearance, but we always have something to talk about when he joins us. The one and only Jerry Jordan is here with us this week, Dom.
Absolutely. He is the first guest to actually have a third appearance here on Let's Go Racing. But hey, who's keeping track? Jerry Jordan. How can you talk Texas Motor Speedway and racing in the great state of Texas without, of course, having David Starr, but Jerry Jordan, who hails from Texas? And when I talked to Jerry on Tuesday about coming on the show, he agreed to come aboard and help us preview this weekend and just share the love of racing. So, Jerry, thanks again for joining us, as always, here on Let's Go Racing.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And, David's right in forgetting about Alex Bowman. This is a year that Alex Bowman wants to be forgotten about and the whole year itself. This has not been a good year for Alex Bowman. And coming into Texas this weekend, you guys are spot on about Denny Hamlin. The track sent us out these big storylines. What's the storyline coming in? The number one storyline for Texas Motor Speedway is Denny Hamlin. But I want to go back and say, look, I picked Denny Hamlin to be the champion this year. Okay. I'm actually, if Denny wins, I will go 3 for 3. So I will have picked Logano and Larson. So I am right on track to have 3 in a row here, with the champions. So just pointing that out. And I could prove it because I bet my picks at the beginning of the year, as Dominic knows.
Hey, there you go. Jerry's the gambler of the group for sure, Tyler.
So tell me this, Jerry. How much did you put down? What would your payout be?
I didn't bet a lot. I didn't have that much faith in him. Okay. There's 40 other drivers out there, but I think I put $10 on Denny. I think at the time he was 15 to 1 to win the championship. So $150. Yes,
okay.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad.
I mean, he's always around. I mean, no, I don't think anybody had odds that were lower than 8 to 1 when I was looking at it back, 6 months, 7 months ago. So, I don't remember. Maybe Larson had some lower odds than that, but I can't remember.
Okay. So, Jerry, while we're on the topic of Denny Hamlin and everything here, before we get into the business of the day and everything, when I look at where Denny's at, what we mentioned there, of the championship runs where guys just tend to take over in those moments. I mean, even, Chase Elliott did it a couple of years ago with his title, winning, 2 or 3 of the final 4 races. I mean, he was in that rhythm. Do you think is Denny going to have that moment like the next few races where where he just dominates, he goes out there and finds a way to get it done? Is that what we're gonna see, you think, here from Denny Hamlin this final stretch?
Well, I spoke to Denny in Charlotte a couple of weeks ago. Right, we had the media day right before the playoffs officially started, and and people talk about his life being chaos and all this. He loves this. He loves being booed in the center of attention, and being being. I don't know how far I can go with the adult language on here, but
here you go as far as you want.
His life is a shit show sometimes, okay, and he thrives on that, and it gives him.
He thrives in chaos. Yes,
he does. He thrives in chaos, and he has said that, and he embraces it. So I think he is more relaxed when his life is in chaos, and I don't understand it, but it works for him, and I like this new kind of bad guy role that he's taken on. I think it's a little bit playful, actually, more so than when Kyle Busch was being booed, and now Kyle is being like embraced. And if you remember back when Carl Edwards did an appearance of, I guess it was earlier this year, and they were like cheering Kyle Busch in the stands, and Carl's like, "Am I in the right place?" And now. And Denny Hamlin is the bad guy. I love this. I love the way this sport changes, and the fans just get behind or get in front of or behind a driver that they like or dislike.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I look at it, Jerry. I don't even think Denny's done anything that bad to even be considered the bad guy of some sorts. Like, okay, sure, maybe he pissed off the fans' favorite driver in Chase Elliott, a few run-ins with him, whatever. But, I mean, if we're trying to find a guy that's actually screwed up, a true villain, that might be Ross Chastain. Denny's just a hell of a racer as far as I'm concerned.
Look, I give Ross a lot of grief. And real quick, you asked me about Denny and how far he can go. I totally predict, like I said, I predicted to win the championship, but no doubt that he's going to continue to thrive over these next few races. You say Ross Chastain, he plays the all shucks role real well. Okay. All shucks. I didn't mean to do that. But he is a methodical, very smart racer. And it kind of like some other past, racers that get in drivers' heads, a Tony Stewart, things like that, who they like getting in people's heads. And I don't even think Ross, I don't think he embraces it. I just think he does it naturally and kind of just plays off that I'm just a watermelon farmer role, and it works for him. And Ross is a great guy, but that is his persona to me.
Yeah. So one thing that we've said on the show, at least I can't really speak for David or Tyler, but I have said it. You guys that listen every week know I've been making these Bobby Allison, Denny Hamlin comparisons. Do you agree with that sentiment, Jerry? Do you think this is like a Bobby Allison kind of thing? We're seeing Hamlin in the twilight of his career. He could win the championship. There's those striking similarities, winning the big races, but not winning the title until finally it's almost too late.
I disagree that this is the twilight of his career. He's got way too much to pay for over at his own team to be thinking about hanging up the driver suit anytime soon. So and they're fixing to expand that that organization. Come on, he's going to be around for a little while longer. But yeah, I can see some comparisons there. But Denny should have won a championship already, at least one, maybe two.
Yeah,
2010, 8 wins. Give it up in the last race of the year with a spin at Homestead. Yeah, 2010 is where my mind goes on that, certainly.
Absolutely. He's definitely the talk of the field right now as far as who you would watch. I would not have picked Joey Logano to go out in the first round. That shocked me. The defending champ going out. No.
Yeah, that was a big surprise for sure. Jerry, let me ask you this, kind of shift gears. Right behind you, I see a flag for the 24 Hours of Le Mans. You were out there and got to see that 24 Hendrick car and everything. Tell me about that experience going out there and seeing everything. Walk us through your journey out to Europe for that.
That is actually strategically placed, but it's not a flag. That is my photo vest or video vest that I had while I was over there. I had to wear that because we have a video that Zach Contends Ready is going to be editing for us sometime before the end of the year of everything that we did, or that I did at Le Mans, and had a blast. I was in the garage with the Hendrick team, the Garage 56 crew. It was just really, really a surreal moment. I walked the entire track, like 8.5 miles.
Wow.
I was up the entire 24 hours, tweeting, texting, and sending out updates. We got a lot of video content. I wrote several stories, but it was just the more importantly, I learned so much about the history of racing, the history of Le Mans, of meeting people, and I had breakfast at the little driver's cafe or pit cafe that they have there. It's like a $2 breakfast. It's been a tradition for years, because if you stay up all night, you're hungry or whatever. But just little things like that. I stayed in Airbnbs, so I got to know people in the community around the track, or the circuit. They don't call it a track, so they call it a circuit. And then just little things like that. Just knowing what to say, when to say it, and just being a part of the 100th running of that. The first time NASCAR had seriously had a contention to finish the race. They knew going back in '76 that they weren't gonna finish the race. They pretty much knew that they weren't going to be contenders. When they went back, I think they went back again like in '84. They ran. Herschel ran better, but the truth is, this car finished the race, and there were people that still owe me money online, by the way, because I took all bets. I didn't care how much it was. I was going to cover every bet for everybody. I bet the car would finish the race. It finished the race, and there's a lot of people that hadn't paid up. Just saying.
So Le Mans, it's 100 years old. They've been running that race 100 years. Is that right? Correct, Jerry?
Yeah, so they took a break, obviously, during the war, kind of like we did with Indy over
Right.
here. So they have this is the 100th anniversary of Le Mans. It was the 75th anniversary of Porsche running in Le Mans. It was the first time for NASCAR to actually have an opportunity to finish the race. And I believe, I forget how many years it had been since NASCAR was at Le Mans in '76. Do the math from 2023 to 1976. But
Right.
it's just it was a very historical moment for the sport, for auto racing in general. And I wanted to be a part of it. And when Dominic can confirm this, when they said they were going to race at Le Mans, I said I'm going. Like, I made a public effort on Twitter, on all social media. I'm going to cover that race, and I did, and I didn't care how much it cost, and it wasn't cheap, but it has been probably one of the most coolest things I've ever done.
So Jerry, when you said you walked around the track, the Le Mans track,
Yeah,
you walked the whole thing.
yeah. So see, I landed on Monday before the race the following week, that following Saturday coming up. So when I got to Paris, I drove after getting a ticket and getting stopped on the freeway.
How many people can say that, dude? That's awesome.
I got a ticket for illegal lane change in France on the freeway, and then and I owe $42 American for it. Just
like you're ever going to pay that?
No, I'm paying it because I'm going back to France because but I'll pay it. But long story short, I got to the track and there's nothing going on. I go to get this we were talking about, this vest.
Yeah.
So I went and got my vest so that I could do my videos and stuff. And then here's the Porsche, the Porsche flag for the 75th for those guys. But yeah, so I went and got my vest. I went and kind of learned the layout of where everybody was, where things were happening. And then I decided, let's start walking. Let's see what this thing's all about. And I walked the track, and that's a long, long way. And then I left, and I went to my Airbnb, and I was exhausted. I took a muscle relaxer because my back and my feet were killing me. And I knew that I was going to have back spasms because I'm prone to that. And I fell asleep and woke up the next day and went back to the track. And I was at the track every single day doing something, just talking to people, learning, walking around, shooting just little video clips here and there of people walking around and talking to people. And then I went to the couple days or so later, I went to the press conference with Kamui Kobayashi and Toyota at the NASCAR exhibit where they were doing a big, had a big like building that they had rented for the NASCAR presence in the fan zone. And it was just amazing. Ate crepes with Nutella and bananas and strawberries. And it was
Wow.
something to like those little things like that. That was really a cool moment this year for me in NASCAR.
Man, amazing. I mean, we've been watching Le Mans. I mean, that's so historic, man. That's amazing you were there. Wow.
I loved it. I loved it. And this is going to get hung up in a shadow box along with some other things that I have.
Absolutely.
And I have one of the Cadillac had these little pins and some cars and some things that they did. I'm working on getting some more Garage 56 stuff because I wasn't in the loop on getting any of the swag from that.
Right.
But they're supposed to be getting me a couple of things that I can put into a shadow box and, just kind of different things that I've collected through the years for stuff.
Well, let me ask you this, Jerry. Obviously, it was a big deal for Garage 56 for that team to finish the race, but what would you say were the big accomplishments for NASCAR and Hendrick Motorsports for this endeavor here, besides just publicity for the sport? What did this mean for NASCAR and Hendrick to pull this off?
I think it means we're going to go back, just for the record. I think we're going to see maybe all three manufacturers make a foray into Le Mans and maybe even have some type of a class. I don't know if they would have a specific class for them, but if you'll remember during the race, they changed their classification of where they were being, racing in the field and where they were lining up. And it was very obvious that we were the dominant car in size over everyone. But I think what they learned from a technical aspect was some aero, with some downforce, a lot on the braking, and things, and some big kudos to Goodyear. I've been working on a story with Goodyear about how they use that race and other races like it to develop tires. And I think we have seen a lot of that technology go into some of the tires we have, and technology that we've seen in the next gen car. So there's a lot of takeaways from it that I think NASCAR will continue to build on as we go forward.
Wow. Interesting how it all works.
Yeah, for sure. And with that said, of those manufacturers and going back and everything here, another amazing chapter, I'm sure that would be for NASCAR to be on that stage and have a competition within NASCAR up there. I would think that Ford and Chevrolet and Toyota would maybe even want to pull current drivers potentially if they were going to do something like that.
Well, look, there's got to be a reason why we're sitting here in mid to late September and don't have a schedule yet. Okay. I have heard a lot of different rumors of why. I don't think Le Mans is part of it, but I think there may be some factors in, of when NASCAR takes breaks and stuff like that going into next year, maybe the year after. Remember, this next gen car is designed to bring other manufacturers into the sport. And I think that what they want to do is to use this as a platform to get eyes on NASCAR. And trust me, I streamed live the parade. Okay. I streamed in downtown Le Mans. I streamed their parade for 3 hours of all the drivers and all the classes going through, with hundreds of thousands of fans lining the street. And there's a lot of people. They love the American cars. They loved NASCAR being there. They loved our drivers, and they love they're embracing our sport. And this was a big plus. It didn't matter if NASCAR made money off this, because they didn't. It didn't matter if Hendrick made money off this, because they didn't. They got eyes on the sport, and that pays off long term.
How big of a deal was it, Jerry, for the pit crew, that Hendrick Motorsports crew, to win that pit crew challenge and to show off like they did? And they didn't even use the technology that all the other teams did in that pit crew challenge.
Go find my tweet. I'm telling you, Tyler, I that was just nuts. People, they were the pit crew walking down pit road with a jack on their shoulder. They were heroes. Okay, they truly were heroes, and they were like celebrities walking through a crowd, a sea of people. Everybody, our social media stuff blew up with all the fans that were there and coming and to see the Garage 56 crew. It was amazing. It was we take it for granted on this side of the ocean. Over there, it was something I'd never seen before. The way that they swarmed our people in the sport.
Unbelievable. That's quite the scene for sure. We're joined by Jerry Jordan of Kicking the Tires here on Let's Go Racing this week, as he's telling us about the Garage 56 at Le Mans experience and more here on the show this week. And Jerry, you mentioned the schedule. We're going to dive into that more coming up later, but there's been rumblings about more international races and more road courses. Was this, you think, a good test of some stuff potentially in the works in that regard, and how not only this car can do on more road courses, but taking NASCAR to an international stage like that?
Absolutely. I think we opened a lot of eyes, and I know that Jim France, that's exactly what he wanted to do. I've talked to him several times. I talked to him over there, and I've talked to him several times since in different, short venues and, interactions. And he was very grateful for the people from here that went over there, and because he wanted to showcase NASCAR, and he got his wish. And that, that's the ultimate goal, is to bring new fans into the sport. And that is an untapped market for stock car racing. We have the NASCAR Euro Series, and different people have gone over there, Myatt Snyder and others. And I think Vargas is going to go over there and run a race. But for us to go bring our cars over there and do that, and put on either an exhibition or even a real race at some point, I think that's the ultimate goal. And I think that would be an amazing feat for NASCAR to do and get a lot of attention, no matter where we race at, whether it's in a stadium like Wembley, or it's on a street course, or even maybe, Nürburgring or some major racetrack that they have over there.
Well, you talk this experience up. You get me excited to go over there someday to go check this out. So what would you say? What advice would you give fans that may want to go make this trek next year, assuming NASCAR is going to have a bigger hand in it or some sort of presence? What would be the recommendations? You've done the logistics, you've done the traveling. How do you do it right?
I am cheap, but I still spent $10,000. But 4,000 of that was for video stuff. But it's going to cost money, but for the fan who can afford to do it, if and when we go back, and I say when we go back, whether it's this year, next year, or whatever, when we go back, if you want an experience, the European people, the French specifically, but I met people from all over. I met people from Austria. I met people from London, and I hung out with a lot of different race fans of all genres. And some of them were like, we don't want NASCAR, but they listened to the car and they're like, oh, that car sounds really cool, but that's not what we're used to. But yeah, it was, I would say, save your money and definitely try to go wherever it's at. This is going to be historic, wherever it's at, whenever we do it.
He's got me even more excited to do this, guys. Sounds like
that's what it's about. That's what it's about. That's what NASCAR, that's what Jim France wanted to do, is to get people excited. He got me excited, and I've been in this sport for 22 years now, 23 years. So,
man, Jerry, it's interesting to hear you speak about all of it. And it's cool that you talked to Jim there. I mean, Jim is, man, he's NASCAR. He's our president. He's the owner. And it's cool that you had some one-on-one time with him there, man. It means a lot. And, you're getting a firsthand, kind of understanding the future of our sport. It's very interesting to hear you speak about all this. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I talked to him. I've talked to Mr. Hendrick. I talked to Jimmy Johnson. I got to interview a lot of different people. Mike Helton was over there. OD was over there. It was funny because I was shooting photos across the track from where the NASCAR suite was, and I texted OD and I said, "If you guys will look up, I'll take your photo." And, and he starts looking down at his phone. And he starts looking around.
You
And
talking
then
about O'Donnell?
yeah, O'Donnell, Steve O'Donnell. So they looked at him and a couple others. They looked up and I took a photo of him and sent it to them. But yeah, it's just that type of stuff. It was just really cool the way NASCAR made people feel welcome and really embraced all the fans that were over there wanting to be involved.
Amazing.
No doubt. One more question, then we'll move on to our news and notes for this week. Jerry, let me ask you this. Here we are. We're 20 years into the playoffs since it was first incorporated as the chase, and the sport has changed a whole lot since. And now, as I think about the future, and with Ben Kennedy and all his ideas involved, and we mentioned just the international potential expansion, and where we're at with the next gen car and everything. If you were to take a glimpse into the future with everything we've talked about, what do you think the sport of NASCAR looks like even just 10 years from now?
I think we have a series of, I wrote about this last summer and it got delayed. And that was the EV series. I don't think we were quite prepared. We weren't prepared for where we're supposed to be with the next gen car as it is. We're supposed to have more electric components to the engine and some things that new engine package and things that we haven't done yet. But I wrote the EV story last year because of the notes that NASCAR had sent out to the teams, and they were supposed to debut that at Chicago, was what I was told. Well, that got scrapped because we weren't technologically, we weren't ready. The fan base, maybe, I'm not sure all of the reasons. NASCAR was very tight-lipped on a lot of it, but I think we have some type of an EV second. It'll never be the Cup Series. It'll just, for anybody watching, it's never going to replace the Cup Series. It's going to be a support series like the trucks and ARCA and Xfinity. And I look at those other series and I'm like, look, the trucks put on a heck of a show. The Xfinity series is a series that we can, build drivers up to get them to Cup. And that's exactly what it's been doing. And so where do we put something like that? We put something like that, around the ARCA level. But it's a hybrid SUV style body car because just the battery technology and things of that nature that they'd have to do, is from my understanding. And all of that was in production. Some of that, I say all of it, some of it's being produced overseas in places like Austria and different facilities, some of it in Indianapolis. But then we see the Cup cars, and we definitely see more of that hybridization for recouping energy from brake packages and things that they were originally trying to do when they first announced the next gen car. I think we continue to see advancements, but it's got to be OEM driven, because look, the OEMs don't want to invest money in something that is going to be old technology or obsolete technology or not embraced by the public. EVs are not they're not heavily embraced by the public. I think like 3 to 6% of the people support EVs overall. And even less as far as race fans go. It's that number's microscopic compared to that. But we don't have the infrastructure as a country to have it, for manufacturers and OEMs to put all this stuff in place by 2035, where there's a lot of edicts and law, the federal laws has mandated it. So those are probably going to get pushed back. That's going to affect racing, because NASCAR thrives off of what the OEMs do, and they're going to want to shift their cars through the next few years on what's going to be best for their business model and what they're going to sell on Monday, because what wins on Sunday sells on Monday.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
I think you were on the show last year too, telling us too, Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure it was you on our show, about how the manufacturers will continue to use NASCAR even to this day. It may not seem like it, but they'll use NASCAR kind of as a sandbox or a playground to try things on the racetrack that they could try on the street eventually, i.e. like the one lug nut instead of the 5. That might be something we might see on a street vehicle down the road.
Very possible. And see a lot of the safety stuff we see in racing gets put into the passenger car, seatbelt restraint systems and things of that nature. So we've the different types of components to crush panels and crush zones, things like that are what we need in a passenger car to save lives, but we need it in a race car for when you have a wreck like either Blaney's going head on into the wall or Priest's flip it over 11 times.
Yeah.
How about that? Very fascinating stuff there.
Very unbelievable.
Yeah. Jerry Jordan joining us here on Let's Go Racing this week. Guys, we'll shift gears and move on to our news and notes segment with top headlines around the sport. Dominic Aragon standing by to catch us up to speed. Dominic, let's start with the very sad and unfortunate news about the passing of Sherry Pollex.
Sherry Pollex, the longtime girlfriend of Martin Truex Jr., passed away at the age of 44 on Sunday, succumbed to her battle with ovarian cancer. Pollex was a fixture in the NASCAR community, being the longtime girlfriend of Martin Truex since the mid-2000s. Often seen at the racetrack, and Jerry can attest to this, seeing her at the White House when Truex was honored as champion, and just a notable presence in the garage area. Definitely a notable significant other of a driver, and her efforts, her philanthropic efforts with cancer and especially children suffering from cancer, something that she took near and dear to her heart. She was first diagnosed in 2014, and the cancer unfortunately came back, but Tyler, her legacy will live on, I think, with the time that she did get to spend on this earth was time well spent in furthering the efforts of cancer and cancer research and the Martin Truex Foundation with the Catwalk for a Cure. So many good things. Unfortunate circumstances surrounding Sherry over the last 9 years, but so much good that came out of it as well. She was 44.
Yeah. David, we'll start with you. What was your reaction to the news of the passing of Sherry Pollex?
Man, just sad to get that news. Just a beautiful person, beautiful girl. We all known her as Martin Truex's girlfriend, but she was just I don't know. I mean, you just seen her every week at the racetrack, and just a sweetheart. And then when you found out she had ovarian cancer and that fight and that determined to beat it, and then, she kind of took us along on the ride with her, you know what I mean? And she changed people's lives. She made a difference in people's lives. And, the charities she was involved in, the money they raised for research for ovarian cancer, and, man, just, on and on and on. I mean, just a beautiful angel, you're just sad because, man, she had you're just sad because she did so much for so many people in the cancer research. And I don't know, man, it's just it's hard. It's just hard to, it's hard because she's one of us, you know what I mean? I just seen her every week and talked to her several times. She was just, I don't know. It's just, man, it's like losing a family. We're all family. We travel together. We race together. I mean, our racing community is small, and anyway, just, I don't know, man, just sadness, really sadness. But through an unfortunate situation with cancer sucks. She embraced it to the fullest, and it inspired a lot of people, and it helped, and I mean, just her legacy, like Dominic was saying, will live for years and years. And I can only imagine the people she affected, and there'll be stories and stories, and we'll hear a lot about Sherry moving forward. But I just sad, man. It's just, any 44 years old. I mean, it's like, there's a lot of bad people in the world. Why her? You know what I mean? Cancer sucks. It affects, all of us, some shape, form, or how. I mean, we all have to, with a family member, a mother, a dad, a brother, uncle, it just sucks, man. I was just saddened.
Jerry, how are you going to remember Sherry Pollex?
Well, I've been lucky enough through the years to get to know her a little bit, and kind of on a little bit of a personal level, because and I'll say this. My wife actually had ovarian cancer 6 years ago. When I started the playoff pursuit, when I was going the final 10 races, camping with the fans and stuff. I know Dominic remembers that. And I drove from track to track to track, camping, for the last 10 races. The first race, so between Chicago and New Hampshire, my wife was scheduled for surgery, because she had a huge tumor. And I drove and parked my camper and my truck and everything in an impound yard in Boston, and flew back to Texas to be there for her surgery. And stayed with her for several days, and then got back on the road because we had just signed sponsorship deals for the first ever, playoff pursuit back then, and then chasing the chase and everything that we changed names a couple, when they changed the format, but yeah, my wife got to know her, so they got to talk, and people don't realize that Sherry met a lot of people either in person or online that they'll never know. There's thousands of women that she touched their lives and helped them get through some very, very dark days in their own lives because of her positive attitude and always having a smile. And and I will always be grateful for Sherry for sharing things and the text and things that she had with my wife and what she said to me. Because I had to go through my wife having ovarian cancer, and my wife's 6 years for cancer free, thank God. And we were just talking about this the other day, because this is a time in the playoffs when that actually was all going on back then, and I made sure I haven't done a lot of things right as a husband in my marriage. Okay, I'm not perfect, I'm always on the road, but I made sure that I came back because I knew how severe it was, and I knew I couldn't do anything for it, but by God, I wanted to be there for my wife because I loved her dearly, and that was that's something that I will always remember, that Sherry was so, supportive, checking, hey, how's Rita doing? How are you doing? How's your wife? And that's what I'll remember about Sherry Pollex.
I only had one interaction with Sherry personally. It was after a race that Martin won. I think it was at Kansas, and I saw her and Martin take a selfie together after he won the race, and I took a picture of them taking the selfie and showed Sherry afterwards, and she was laughing about it and shared it on social media, but was very kind, very friendly, and just could tell just in my one interaction with her how warm of a nice person that she was. And I mean, just an incredible impact, and all the stories. Dominic, we hear a lot about the catwalk and all the money that raised with the Martin Truex Foundation over the years. I mean, Sherry Pollex, her legacy and her impact certainly felt.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's really refreshing to see a lot of the stuff I've seen on social media this week about all the support and all the stories that are coming. I'm sure those stories are going to continue to come out, just of how wonderful of a person she was and the interactions and all these people's lives that she touched. Really, really cool to see. And I think Jeff Gluck, a friend of the show and writer at The Athletic, wrote a really good column piece. I want to plug his piece. He gave great insight just to really how truly impactful she is, and will continue to be in the sport.
Yeah, no question about it. Dominic, what else we got going on?
Racing news ahead of the NASCAR Cup Series weekend at Texas. So we know some more dominoes falling in the silly season parts of 2023 and 2024. Zane Smith, originally a Chip Ganassi racing driver that was supposed to drive the one car in 2021, comes full circle with a contract with Trackhouse Racing. But there's a little bit more to that story, Tyler. Zane Smith will be competing full-time in the Cup Series in 2024 with a chartered ride at Spire Motorsports. Spire Motorsports has acquired a third charter. The sale of LiveFast Motorsports charter for $40 million, the highest yet for a charter to go for. The team has three. Zane Smith is on loan to Spire Motorsports from Trackhouse Racing, similar to what Chris Buescher had with JTG Doherty Racing for several years. Zane Smith will be racing on Sundays come 2024.
Can I interrupt? Can I interrupt here?
Absolutely.
Are we sure about the? I know are we sure about the $40 million?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless it's more like it.
Is it more, Gary?
Because no, I'm saying that, I mean, even Brad at Media Day said 30. And you know, I find it difficult to believe that it hit $40 million so quickly, because Denny just bought his a few years ago for 16. And you know, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that talk a lot of noise about different stuff, but you know, where I don't know why it would go that high that quick. I'm not saying it didn't, but I'm curious. I'd love to know if that's true or if that's pontification or puffery.
Right. I mean, I would argue, Jerry, the demand is higher than it's ever been. You know, back when you were talking of the previous sales, you know, there were multiple charters being sold per year. Now we're down to, you know, everyone clawing on the one they can get. So I would say that's probably the big difference now comparatively to then. But Jerry, a lot to unpack on this. For one, you mentioned the asking price. You know, obviously that's a big deal of charters going up. But then, you know, you have Zane Smith, who was Ford's top prospect, going to a Chevy team. And then, not to mention, you know, he's a Trackhouse driver, but Spire buys the charter. Why didn't Trackhouse buy the charter? And, you know, the partnership side of it, is it going to be prepared by Trackhouse? Is it just that one car, or is Trackhouse going to be running everything for Spire? I mean, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, there's a lot more to this story that I want to know. And look, I'm going to be flat out honest. I was trying to put together a buying group. I have an investor in Houston that would have spent $5.1 million on a charter back when Furniture Row was selling their charter, the one that Spire bought for roughly $5.6 million. And that was just a few years ago, guys. I mean, we're talking about exponentially. And if we continue on this path, you're talking the next charter could go for $75 million or $100 million. And I think that's what NASCAR wanted. They wanted a value for team owners and things to get. But is it really worth that? Look at the TV package. Look at the sponsorship package. And David, you're a driver and you've been an owner even, I think, you know, in some aspects. Is that money there in the sport to support a $40 million charter or more?
Well, I mean, you know, that's a great question, and that's a great question. I don't have the answer for it, but you know, you look at Dale Earnhardt Jr. and what they've done on the Xfinity side. I mean, championships after championship, winning races, and you think of Earnhardt Jr. and Junior Motorsports. You know, we kind of been watching them. I know there's a lot of interest in having a Cup team, but you know, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I read something maybe a couple months ago that Junior just said right now the business side of it doesn't make sense for them to jump in. You know what I mean? And that just tells me from a business standpoint of making the business work. Is there enough sponsorship? Do they have enough sponsorship? I mean, they got great sponsorships on the Xfinity side, great partners, winning races. And then you hear them talk about, you know, the business side of it doesn't really work for them for now. It's kind of interesting, you know what I mean? Because and Jerry, I really agree with you, Jerry. I mean, you know, 40 million, 60 million, 50 million, you get to a point where it's like, I mean, it's like, you know, you almost price a lot of people out of the industry, you know what I mean? The new people to come in. You know, it'd be interesting. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever know the true facts about it. But you know, how can it go from 16, 17, 18, maybe 20 million to double that now? You know what I mean? So it's interesting, and you know, it's interesting. You know how it all works, and I don't know, man. It gets just like I said, it just gets to the point where it's like, man, how long will it take you as a team owner or your group of investors or, all the people involved to, how many years it's going to take to that investment. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure there's bigger and better investments out there. I don't know. It's kind of interesting to me. And what is that true number? You know what I'm saying, Jerry? They're saying
Right.
40 million, but man, it's hard to imagine that somebody would pay that kind of money for one charter.
I mean, you think about it.
With no interest.
Along those lines of the 40 million, let's say it is 40. Are Matt Tifft and BJ McLeod each pocketing $20 million now? Like, are they, just going off in the sunset and living off 20 million? I mean, is that really what's happening here?
I'm going to call Matt and find out, but that's a whole different. That's a whole different. But look, if you financed it for 20 years, you're still paying $2 million a year with no interest. With no interest, if you finance it, and I don't think Spire just stroked a check for $40 million. Okay,
no.
And I know that when BK Racing, when they had their charter, and they got their charter for original, with the original groups, I think it's $1 million or whatever NASCAR did. They got a bank loan for it for $3 or $5 million. Okay, they got a loan for collateral against the charter, and then they went bankrupt. But that's I'm just looking at the business model if it can be supported based on a current TV contract that we have, even based on a future TV contract. We hear these cars get $27 to $35 million.
So, Jerry, what I would counter is that you look at the F1 side. Take an example, a guy like Michael Andretti. He's been trying for almost 2 years now to get into F1, and they have an entry fee that is excess of hundreds of millions of dollars, and they seem to be doing okay. And some of the F1 owners don't even want Michael Andretti's money. So, can NASCAR get to that point where ownership's in demand like that F1 side of things?
I mean, maybe, but you've got to look at some of the aspects of the sponsorship model in F1 and the companies that are involved. When you talk about F1, there was a recent study by Opezi, and this is a marketing firm, and they took the valuation of the companies that sponsor the F1 teams, some of the top 10 F1 teams out there. And Aston Martin is sponsored by Saudi Aramco, which is an oil company in Saudi Arabia. It's got an $8 trillion valuation. Okay, that's a market cap of $8 trillion. So they're the primary sponsor of the Aston Martin team. So that puts Aston Martin as the highest sponsor valued team in F1. But then you look at Haas, and that team only has $1 billion valuation, and a lot of that is based on Gene Haas's valuation as far as being the team owner with his Haas automation cars. So, when you start looking at this, I don't know what the true answer is. I just know that it takes a lot of money to do what we're talking about. And just to give you an idea, in this study, Ferrari is worth their sponsorship valuation is $334 billion based on the company Ferrari and the other sponsors that affiliate with Ferrari to put that car on the track. But when you get down to Alfa Romeo, they're $40 billion. What do we have in NASCAR that are equivalent sponsorship other than like Shell Oil, Pennzoil, things like that? What are these companies and their valuations that are sponsoring these teams and putting our cars on the track versus what F1 is when you're talking about the business model?
Right. I mean, I guess you got Haas out there, with Stuart Haas Racing, but yeah, that's nothing very much compares as far as that goes. The Zane Smith,
the lowest.
Go ahead, Jerry.
I said Haas is the lowest in F1 as far as valuation, right? So.
Right. The Zane Smith part of the equation here. Obviously, tremendous talent. He was desired by a lot of teams, and he ends up in the Trackhouse family, but with Spire. Also, you have SVG coming in on a development contract as well. What is the end game, you think, for these guys with both Zane Smith and SVG, and currently 2 charters there? How does Trackhouse make this all work?
I don't know, but I guess it pays a lot more money to race as a development driver in America than a top flight driver in New Zealand. That's the only reason why I can think that Shane Van Gisbergen is coming over here, because he's getting a bigger check. Okay. As far as Zane, we knew that was coming. We've known for a while that something was happening with him and that he wasn't coming back, to where he was at. And it's a good move for him. It's a good move for Shane. As far as the long-term aspect of Trackhouse, I mean, do they lose Daniel Suarez at some point? Do they lose? Ross Chastain has been rumored to be in sights for Rick Hendrick at some point through the years. Even though he got into a couple of scuffles with Hendrick's drivers, so I don't know, but you got to think these teams have to start planning for the long-term future, and they need development drivers in their pipeline. And they didn't have that, and now they do.
And David, you look at what Trackhouse has done. They already do the pit crews for colleague racing. Now you have this partnership with Spire. You got the development drivers. Trackhouse, no pun intended, is expanding the house right before our eyes right now in real time.
Yeah, they are. And I just listened to Jerry speak. It's and again, I think we're going to see more and more of this happen. They're just, they're just preparing for the future, and man, Zane Smith, just so talented as a race car driver. It's interesting that Ford didn't place him as a development driver somewhere with the Ford team. I'm kind of, it's kind of, that doesn't add up to me. But man, Trackhouse, Justin Marks, they've done a tremendous job in placing him with Spire, just to as development driver, because I mean, to place him as a development driver, his future is going to be big in the sport. It's going to be big with Trackhouse. So, what does that look like the following season and the following season? There's a business plan, a long-term 5-year, 3-year plan that's in place now. And, Zane Smith's going to be part of it for a while, so it's kind of interesting to see it all, how the teams are strategically placing these development drivers and kind of teaming up with these other teams, because Trackhouse doesn't have 3 charters. They have 2, so it's interesting how it's playing out in front of us.
Well, and then Dominic, you look at the Stewart-Haas equation of all this. I think a lot of people had assumed that Eric Almirola would be retiring and Zane Smith would step into the 10 car. And we've heard rumors about them potentially selling a couple of their charters. They've downplayed that. But what does Stewart-Haas Racing now do? Because that seemed like a natural fit. Ford family, their top driver, looking for somebody to replace Almirola, and they lose out on him. Maybe Almirola's not retired after all. What the hell is going on with Stewart-Haas Racing?
Great questions. Those are now the big, I think, in my opinion, the biggest pieces of this silly season puzzle. That 10 car. Is Almirola back? Is he pulling a Brett Favre and coming back for another year? Are we going to see him actually retire once and for all? I figure if Smithfield's there and they want to continue to be part of the team, that's probably what's going to happen. Smithfield's happy with Almirola. Almirola stays with the team, and maybe not. What do you think?
Jerry wants to say something.
Yeah, I can tell. What are we thinking, Jerry?
My head is bouncing around like Joey Logano's bobblehead back here. And look, I'm predicting right now Eric Almirola is not going anywhere. Okay, we've heard he's going to retire. Last year he was going to retire and he came back. There was some shakeup at Smithfield. I don't think Almirola leaves this year. I just don't think it happens. I may have a little bit hint of an insight on something to it. There are some dominoes that have to fall right for him to stay, but I don't think he's out of that car yet. That's just my gut feeling. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, and I'll admit it. But I don't think he's out of that car next year.
Real quick before we move on, Jerry, how much of it has to do with Smithfield?
Well, that's their primary sponsor, and they love him. But they may be tired of racing because Smithfield is a Chinese-owned company now, and there's a lot of animosity between America and China and American motorsports specifically and things of that nature. I don't know how big that factor is, but you got to look at the fact that Smithfield was bought out by a Chinese conglomerate several years ago.
China and America at odds, big if true. Dominic, we still got more headlines to get to.
We still got way more to get to, including the 2024 schedule. What's going on with this? It's September. You guys might recall in 2019, we had the 2020 schedule in March of 19. So
I hated that. I hated that.
I'm sure it's nice for travel to get the logistics, get it 30 minutes before, try to get everything booked, right? That's your best time to try and get your schedules for next year. But the 2024 schedule, so many variables, Tyler, but there are some new things potentially in the works, including the Texas Motor Speedway having a race moved from the fall to the spring, just having one date. Road America is off the schedule completely, is what it sounded like. Not even an Xfinity Series stop with that series. And we know that the LA Coliseum will be back on the schedule for a third consecutive year. That race is scheduled to kick off the season opener on February 4th, Sunday, exhibition race with the NASCAR Mexico Series making a stop as well.
Yes, and there was speculation about that being a replacement race for the Auto Club race that won't be on the schedule next year, but that won't happen. It will remain exhibition race before the Daytona 500. Jerry, from the dots you've connected and everything here, what's going on with the schedule here?
I'm not going to tell you the dates. Well, I mean, maybe, but I have hotel reservations in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Vacaville, California. This is in order of schedule. Just to give you an idea, Austin, Texas, Fort Worth, Texas, Rockingham, Manchester, Canada, and then Chicago. I'm sorry, Manchester, New Hampshire, Chicago, and then Montreal. Those are the hotels I've already booked for next year. Now, granted, I can cancel them, and that was in order of how they would run if true in my schedule breakout.
No, wait. Go back. What was that one California city you mentioned?
Vacaville. That's north of Sonoma.
Oh, okay.
So Sonoma, like in March, basically.
Okay. I honestly have not heard of Vacaville. I thought I was onto something there.
Sonoma moving from the summer to March. Is a possibility. Texas moving out of the playoffs to the fall. I mean, to the spring is a possibility. And I predict that is because I can't get them to talk to me. They want. I begged them. They're like, we're waiting for NASCAR to release a schedule. We can't say anything. But I mean, you could check hotel rooms. You could check with chambers of commerce, things of that nature. People hear what's going on when negotiations like these are happening with tracks for NASCAR races. And I'm hearing that Texas is going to be in the spring. And it's so that if they decide to change the track, because they would have to make some big changes to Texas Motor Speedway if they do it, that will give them a full year plus to come back onto the schedule for 2025 for whatever they would want to do to Texas Motor Speedway.
So, David, not to try to get you in trouble and say anything you're not, because we know you do have connections to the Texas Motor Speedway. But with all things considered, we've heard the rumblings about this potential move to the spring, maybe a doubleheader with IndyCar here. Also not being too far apart from the race in Austin as well here. That potentially could be a special time for NASCAR within the state of Texas there in the spring. I'd say NASCAR motorsports in general in the state of Texas could be really awesome there for that stretch in the spring.
No doubt about it. Back-to-back races in the same state be pretty awesome. I kind of asked the question. It's amazing. Here we are, September, almost into October, and the schedule hadn't been released. That just tells me that, there's some big changes coming. And I think Jerry mentioned a lot of them, but, they don't have it all worked out yet. But I think since it is coming out so late, it's so exciting to everybody, you know what I mean? Because that they're just it's not easy, but there's some exciting changing coming on. And and I guess I asked the question, when do y'all think it will be released? I mean, soon, the next couple of weeks, or are we a month away? I mean, when are they going to release it? It's kind of interesting that it's this late. what's y'all's opinion, Jerry?
Well,
What's your opinion? You
I
know,
think they're going to release it after Jerry releases it.
No, that's not going to happen. But I can tell you this: I'm hoping that I get, just as Dominic said, a 30-minute heads up
right.
to round out my travel. But I think we saw a forced hand on the LA race. I'm not so sure we were going back to LA, but I think they had to let California and the city of Los Angeles and the school, the college over there, know whether or not we were going to race, because I think they originally wanted to take it overseas and do it maybe in London or somewhere on a much more international scale. I have been told by some of my NASCAR sources that this isn't a local state issue for government, but a national and international issue in some of the negotiations that have been going on. So I'm curious to see how all of that plays out when the schedule is released. I believe we're going to Canada. I don't believe we're going to Mexico next year. I still believe we, in some form or fashion, will make some sort of a foray overseas again, whether it be Garage 56 type stuff at Le Mans, or whether it be an exhibition race, or like they went to, they brought the 56 car, the Garage 56 car, they brought it to Goodwood and some other things, and different Bathurst, I think, different things that they brought it around to get more eyes on it. I think that's part of NASCAR's focus, is to see where they can get the most attention for the sport. But yeah, there's talk of a Texas doubleheader, from what I was told. A state as big as Texas can pull that off. We can have a Texas shootout between Texas Motor Speedway and Circuit of the Americas, where we're in Austin one week and Dallas the next, or vice versa, and still get a hell of a crowd in the grandstands at both races.
In fact, maybe even help out both races with the cross promotion and being the same ownership group. And, COTA's pretty much run by the staff at Texas Motor Speedway anyway. So a lot of corporate synergy there. Dominic, one more thing on the schedule real quick. What we do know for sure, Bristol is not bringing back the dirt race. We are going back to the concrete for the spring race. And I think, if you ask most people, that's a welcome change.
I think so. The dirt race ran its course, I think, from the general consensus of NASCAR fans. And it seemed like there was mixed reaction from the drivers. But the dirt race, NASCAR Cup at Bristol, the Easter tradition, was a tradition that really never really got started.
Yeah, never took off. David, would you rule out the Cup Series returning to dirt in the future?
No, I wouldn't rule it out. I'd like to see them go to a real dirt track, like Eldor, Tony Stewart's dirt track, or a dirt track that is a dirt track. You know what I mean?
Right.
And not converting one of our NASCAR asphalt concrete racetracks into a dirt track. But I don't think that you can rule that out. We probably won't see a dirt race on the schedule in 2024, but I'd be surprised if we didn't see one back on the schedule for the following year. Really, I think, like Dominic just said, I don't think it took off like people expected it to. But I think that the future is there's at least one dirt track race for the Cup side in the future. You know what I mean, per year.
Yeah. I just think it needs to be researched more and needs more testing and development. It can be done, but there's got to be more effort put into it and pulled off right. And I think you're absolutely right, David, the idea of putting it on an actual dirt track. Dominic, I believe next we're looking ahead to the weekend.
Yeah, you are correct. The Texas NASCAR doubleheader, the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series. You have the Auto Trader Echo Park Automotive 400 this weekend for the Cup Series. It's points race. It's first and only stop for Texas Motor Speedway on the Cup Series schedule. Did my homework. Actually have our odds printed out this week, courtesy of our friends at Route 66 Casino. Your odds-on favorites for the Auto Trader Echo Park Automotive 400 include Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson at opening odds at 5-1. Martin Truex and William Byron at 6-1. Last year's winner, Tyler Reddick, at 8-1. And Christopher Bell rounding out the 10 or greater odds at 10-1. Brad Keselowski at 14-1, last year's pole sitter. Chris Buescher on his hot streak at 16-1. The highest non-playoff driver, Chase Elliott, at 18-1. And the lowest odds of any driver that made the 2023 playoffs. That would be Michael McDowell and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. coming in at 100-1 to win the Auto Trader Echo Park Automotive 400.
Wow.
18-1 on Elliott is not a bad bet. That's a good bet.
I would think
the odds are I break down bets based on the odds of driver performance, things of that nature. That's a good I would call that a mid-level payoff bet.
What about Harvick and Logano? They're both sitting at 30-1. Alex Bowman at 40-1. Long shot.
I picked long shot odds because I've picked both of those drivers to win a couple times this year. They just have not had the speed. Kevin will tell you straight up he hadn't had the speed, and Logano has not had the speed consistently, and something's missing over there at Penske. It's obvious that the folks at RFK have learned something, and they are not sharing. And it's very noticeable that the look, Penske didn't share with when it was Roush and the Roush is and the RFK guys are kind of giving them a little bit payback right now, and I think they're enjoying being the dominant Ford in the garage.
I think so. We were talking a lot about Denny earlier and the momentum that he's got right now. Dom, is he who you're rolling with this week? Is that you think he keeps it up and goes 2 in a row?
Yeah, you know what? I think Denny Hamlin picks up win number 52. I was right last week. I think Denny Hamlin gets it done again. I feel like we've had this theme where we all pick our same guy every week and our same guy throughout the season. Hamlin's been my guy, and I think Denny's going to get win number 4 this weekend at Texas. Punch that round of 8 ticket.
I think Denny's a great pick. I'll take his biggest challenger for the championship, William Byron, who's been good everywhere this year. I'm watching out for William Byron to get the job done this weekend. David, how about you?
Well, I'll take Kyle Larson, you know what I mean, because he's shown a lot of speed. They just kind of clean up some of those mistakes, and he's been fast week in and week out. It's one thing about it, it's going to be exciting and and kind of cool to hear what Jerry's who he thinks. But man, it's we don't know who's going to win. It can be any of these guys we're talking about, but it's definitely going to be exciting. So looking forward to it.
Is it my turn?
Yes, it is.
All right. So I've got a couple of takes on this. Number one, we got to think about this being Texas Motor Speedway. This is actually going to be the first time that we've really seen these cars, this particular car in action in full speed, not an all-star race at Texas Motor Speedway. This is their first real showing of this generation of car at Texas Motor Speedway, if you think about it, because the last time they haven't got to put on a real show, and Texas Motor Speedway has been very adamant about that. But there's a team that has learned a lot through the years at Texas Motor Speedway that's been around this sport for a long time, and there's a driver that used to race for a different manufacturer who's had some success there, and that driver is Kyle Busch, and that's who I'm picking this weekend to win at Texas Motor Speedway. That RCR team has been consistent there through the years lately.
And those are 14-1 odds, Jerry.
I'll bet it right now.
I love it. Great stuff there. Our final segment, our Ask David segment, we ask you to submit questions for David and our guests each and every week. Facebook.com/Starr Podcast, X @Starr Podcast. That still sounds weird to say. And then email davidstarpodcast@gmail.com is where you can send emails to us there. First question in the inbox for everybody. We'll start out with Jerry on this. Steve wants to know, who is on your Mount Rushmore of not NASCAR, but overall racing?
Overall racing? Oh, well, I mean, man, Niki Lauda. Okay. If you're going to go overall racing.
Yes. Overall motorsports. Yes.
Niki Lauda.
Well, your Mount Rushmore consists of 4 people.
Okay. Dale Earnhardt Sr.
Okay. That's 2.
Richard Petty. You'd have to put him.
Okay.
And damn, I put 2 NASCAR drivers on there, but Mario Andretti would be would be the other one. But but that's those are mine. And David saying no, but
You can't be from Texas, dude. You can't be from Texas, man.
Hey, yeah, I know, I am, but I knew I was going to catch hell. Go ahead and shoot me down, David.
Well, hey, AJ Foyt, no doubt.
I know.
AJ Foyt, Dale Earnhardt Sr., Richard Petty, man.
David. One more.
Yeah, man, it's tough, it's tough because you got Mario Andretti, you got David Pearson, you got Jeff Gordon, you know what I mean? It's like, man, Jimmy Johnson, golly, you know what I'm saying? So, you're gonna have to sneak Jimmy Johnson in there. What he's done, 7-time Cup champion, you got Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr. You can't forget about Jimmy Johnson, but man, hell, you need to add another one. It's hard to put 4, you know what I mean? It's like, I definitely Richard Petty, AJ Foyt, Dale Earnhardt Sr., but man, there's so many deservings, you know what I mean? How do you even figure that formula out? Who's the next one? You know what I'm saying? Woo! Mario Andretti, definitely. David Pearson, Jimmy Johnson. I don't know, man. It's hard to pick a 4th one.
So let me just say, if I was able to take Nicky off, I would have to put Tony Stewart on it, because Tony Stewart's won in pretty much everything that he's ever done. And right now he's leading the top alcohol dragster by 64 points in his first season over the NHRA. So, you got that guy's got a lot of talent. So you got to look at that. But yeah, like David said, you can't just pick, 4 people. There's that many people that are so great in racing.
Yeah.
Here's mine. I'll go Jimmy Johnson, Lewis Hamilton, John Force, and then I'll go Mario Andretti as my Mount Rushmore. Dominic, give me yours.
No, we have some similar picks there. I was trying to broad stroke all motorsports. It's very hard to do that. But hearing you guys speak, I think gave me a little bit of time to be prepped for it. I said Michael Schumacher, John Force, Mario Andretti, and Richard Petty. Those would be my Mount Rushmore of motorsports. Not easy, though.
I can't argue with that.
No,
you can't really argue with any of these 4.
No. No.
I know David had to include AJ Foyt, and he ridiculed Jerry about that, being a Texan. But other than that,
AJ lives 75 miles from me. Like literally, AJ is 75 miles that way right now.
He's coming for you for leaving.
Yeah, he's probably going to put me in a headlock and punch me in the face.
Oh man, and the little debates between just the disciplines themselves, like Jerry, we could argue all night about Schumacher versus Lewis Hamilton, or the NASCAR side of the 3-headed monster of the 7 championships between Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, and Jimmy Johnson as well.
It's just this is a hard. I heard this question come up somewhere last week, and about the Mount Rushmore, and I was like, damn, I hope I don't get asked this question, because I knew how hard it was going to be, and y'all put me on the spot. So to the guy who questioned that, thanks a lot. But the great thing about racing is we have some really truly talented people that have come that have driven on 4 wheels all around this planet.
We got one right now that might win this race Sunday, Kyle Larson. Man.
Yeah.
You got to put him in the Tony Stewart era. Man,
and if we backed it down to 2 wheels, then we can talk Ricky Carmichael, in that bunch, So, yeah, it's pretty impressive for sure. Next question in the inbox. This is from Connor for David. Connor wants to know, David, we know racers at your level have grueling races every week, but in your opinion, what are the most physically demanding racetracks?
So ask me that again.
Let me read it one more time.
Yeah,
From Connor wants to know, David, we know racers at your level have grueling races every week, but in your opinion, what are the most physically demanding racetracks?
man, I'd have to go with, the road courses. Sometimes these road courses are physically demanding. And then, man, a 3/8 mile dirt track, these sprint cars, I mean, late model wedge cars. I mean, it's just, I mean, there's a lot of them, you know what I mean? But, the road courses, golly, if you could equate how many times you're upshifting and downshifting in a road course uh, and then, dirt tracks, there's a lot going on. So, Darlington would be one, man. At times when you're 3,400 pound race car is not doing what you need it to do, and man, you're wrestling that thing for 500 miles to 300 miles. Man, you're trying to keep it off the wall, and you're trying to race your competition. Woo, man, that thing's demanding, So, there's several, but I'd have to go with the first choice be road courses, and then a 3/8, some dirt tracks, some smaller dirt tracks, and Darlington. It's those things are physically demanding. So yeah, my picks.
Jerry, from what you've witnessed, what do you think of the most physically demanding tracks and these drivers?
Yeah, I would agree with David on the aspect of the road course, but I have a question for David too. A couple of them, but one of those, like you talked about it being at Darlington. Dude, if you're a driver and you wreck early in the race and your car is junk, do you kind of go out there and like do the math in your head and it's like, okay, I only need to run 80 more laps and then I'm going to put this sucker into the fence and go to the house? I mean, do drivers think that way?
Well, I think some do. It's kind of it's a tough thing. I mean, because man, when you wreck and your race car is damaged at Darlington, sometimes it's harder sometimes to stay out of the way than it is just to run the race. You know what I mean? I mean, hell, I mean, yeah, it's tough. There's not a lot of room there, and man, it's if you're running on the bottom or up, I mean, it's just not a lot of room. And if you're not up to speed, it's sometimes just like, man, you don't want to change the outcome of the race because you created a wreck because your car was fast enough to make minimum speed. So NASCAR doesn't give you the black flag, but slow enough to be in the way, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's man, those races aren't fun. You're just doing everything you can and the only thing you can hope for is others have mechanical issues or sometimes wrecks, and you're picking up. It'd be amazing how many spots you can pick up sometimes. But man, some of these tracks, you're just like, man, you're listening to your spotter, you're looking in your mirror more than you're looking forward, just because you don't want to change you don't want to be in the way. You know what I mean? So if that makes sense, so it's a challenge.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, for sure. No question about it. Dominic, there's been a number of times where I've seen David get out of the race car and it looks like he just finished a heavyweight fight. I mean, it's so disrespectful when I hear people say, try to argue if NASCAR drivers or athletes or not, whatever. Because I mean, we've seen guys like David step out of that race car and you're like, okay, they just went through some of the toughest 4 hours of their life.
And there was one time, I think it was the 2021 Texas race weekend. David was running the All-Star race weekend that week, and he'd run the Xfinity race on that Saturday. And you might remember, Tyler, Derry, I think you were there too. It was like 98 degrees, 99 degrees. I go up to go talk with David after the race, just, hey, how'd the race go, all that. And I had never seen David so sweaty, so like looked what was physically draining. First words out of his mouth, grab me a water. You grab me a water. So I booked it, try to find him as quickly as I could. And then he's dumping the water down his back to cool his body down. I mean, those race cars get hot. And I know the temperature makes a difference too. And I've heard of drivers saying when the temperature is colder outside, it's a little more bearable. But I especially imagine on a hot day like that, Tyler, you got to be in the best shape of your life if you're going to be running 300 miles, 97 degrees in the dead heat of Texas in June. It takes a special person to do that. Not everybody's built to do that.
Yeah. And this weekend, we will see it firsthand as all of us will be at Texas Motor Speedway. And David, I know you're excited to get back in the car this weekend and a race there at your home track.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's it's been too long, and Just excited to get back to racing, excited to see a great race, be part of a great race, and then to witness a great cup race on Sunday afternoon. Man, it's going to be incredible. So every week, it's there's so much at stake in our sport. There's so many great teams and drivers and teams that have a lot of momentum. Some were like, man, what's going on with them? And man, the anticipation of the race is just really cool. It's exciting to have new eyes on the excitement of our sport and what's going on in our sport and how competitive it is. I love, throughout the week, people stop me and ask me, hey, who you think is going to win the race? You know what I mean? People that aren't really NASCAR fans. So I just like the momentum that our sport has right now. We're growing, we're getting new viewership, new people watching, and the playoffs are exciting. You know what I mean? And like you guys were saying, like I think Jerry was saying earlier, who would have thought that our champion was not going to make it out of the first round in the playoffs? You know what I mean? But you look at the Ford teams, and you look at the Penske teams, and man, it's they hadn't had a whole lot of speed all year long, and it's kind of interesting to go from the champion to not the type of season that we expected the Penske team to have. And then you look at Kevin Harvick. Harvick, man, he still got that drive in him. Man, they were 5 laps down at Bristol Saturday night, and I was like, man, you were just, I'm like, they're just an adjustment away. They're a pit stop away from really turning that thing around, and it just seemed like nothing. They changed everything, and nothing was helping that car. And then you hear Kevin's responses, hear his, the frustration of not being competitive during the race and not making the chase. And he just said, hey man, this has been an ongoing thing all year long. We just hadn't been consistent. We didn't have the speed. But all in all, the whole industry, NASCAR racing in general, man, I just think it's the playoffs and building up to the playoffs. Now we're in the playoffs. It sucks people in, and I just love hearing from new fans. And man, for us, it's exciting, and the race Sundays will be no different.
For sure, Jerry, you're coming up our way to the better part of the state of Texas here in the next couple of days.
Yes, I am. Hey, David, I've got this. I've got an extra $20 or $30 that I can put this sticker. Maybe I can help out some sponsorship.
Well, hey, man, bring it on. We'll put it on the car, buddy. Heck, it's
he's put our logos on the race car before too. So.
I didn't know if y'all had a non-compete or something.
No, man, hell, for what, all of you guys have done for the sport and the coverage you give the sport and the teams, the manufacturers, the drivers, what you bring to the race fans, hell, all of y'all deserve a sticker on every car every week. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
All right. I'll bring a sticker on Saturday.
David, along those lines, I do want to say something because I've been around, I think, longer than Dominic and Racing Experts. We started, when did you start? I was 2021, so I think I'm also 51 and you're a lot younger, but right. We're all independents. We're not Sports Illustrated, we're not Fox, we're not Motorsport. We are guys that own our own companies. I own Kick, and I've owned it since day one. Dominic and his group with Racing Experts, Front Stretch is another competitor out there. Tom Bowles is a friend of mine and a friend of Dominic's, and we all compete like you drivers do, but there are small independent NASCAR motorsports media outlets out there that get overlooked, because we're not the big guys, and that's frustrating. I try to do things like Le Mans. I try to do different stuff that through the years, and Dominic has been so committed, and Tyler is so committed to covering this sport through the years, and I don't think either one of you guys get the credit that you deserve. I'm on the road more than you guys are, but it's, if you're not around this sport, sometimes people forget about you, and sometimes people that think they're bigger than they are, they take a fall from grace, so to speak, and then kind of on the outside looking in. So this sport can chew you up if you're not careful on both the driver's side, the team owner side, and also the media side, especially with the independents.
Yeah,
no doubt about it, Jerry. But man, you like you said, you've been involved for, I think you said 23 years, 24 years, whatever it is. But you've done a tremendous job. I hear nothing but good things about you. And man, I hope that this sport, because the sport is a better sport because of you guys, and what you do for it. And I hope, it's y'all's business. You own it, independent. And man, I just hope, that, man, y'all have all the sponsors and you continue to flourish and continue to showcase our sport to the fans that loves hearing about the insides behind the scenes. You know what I mean? I mean, it's good stuff, man. Good stuff.
well, and I think to add to Jerry's point too, it's all important. We talked about the family aspect of the sport and all that. Everybody's so tight whip that everybody, having friends like this, stick together. I mean, between the four of us, everybody knows Dominic and David and I have been friends before this show ever started. But Jerry and Dominic and I, we call each other friends. I was hanging out with Jerry and Austin, and it's important to have those relationships, people that you just enjoy being around, can trust and like being with, beyond just respecting each other's coverage, but just being on the same page, and that makes it a whole lot easier. People you respect, enjoy being around. Jerry, I would definitely include him in that bunch with us, and our buddy John Haverland, same thing, among others there. It's Dominic, of those that we surround ourselves with, it's pretty unique and good group of people.
Well, I got to add to that too, Tyler. Anytime I've talked with you on the phone, or David, or even Jerry earlier this week, I mean, it's crazy. You can go all this time without talking to somebody, and you pick up where you left off on. And I can tell you too, it's pretty cool to hear Tyler or David or Jerry or whoever in the racing community. Anytime we talk on the phone, it's not really about racing stuff. Hey, how's the family doing? How's Felice? How's Christopher? Hey, how's mom and dad doing? That sort of thing. It's really cool. That family aspect, Tyler, you hit the nail on the head. It couldn't be more true.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, hey, Jerry was saying, see some of the biggest people that fall from grace. You know what I mean? I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to make a living, take care of our families, make sure we're happy, we're healthy, and we can pay our bills. You know what I mean? I'm no matter what aspect of this sport that we're involved in, it's driver, crew chief, team owner, PR rep, media, racetrack G. I mean, there's so many different opportunities and job opportunities, but at the end of the day, man, we're all human beings. We all have hearts. We have loved ones. We're trying to take care of our families, feed our families. And, the human aspect of it is, I love it. You know what I mean? Hey, we all love and we're very passionate. You guys wouldn't have been in the sport as long as we all have if we wasn't very passionate about it. But man, at the end of the day, we're trying to make a living. You guys do a great job. I hope you get all the sponsors you deserve. We keep doing what we love to do. We can feed our family and we stay healthy. And man, it's like we talked about it earlier. Sherry Pollex. I mean, she's 44 years old, beautiful person, beautiful. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just, it took me a long time to realize this, but it was all about racing. I'm race. I live, eat, and sleep it, But, it wasn't until I got married and my kids were born. It's like, man, when I have a bad race and I make it back home and open that door and I see those kids and my wife, it's like, man, it's, what happened, the day before, the night before, it's okay. You know what I mean? There's something much bigger, you know what I mean? But it's just cool. Like we said earlier, we're a big family, or we're just a small niche, but we're all family. You know what I mean? So yeah, we're all humans.
No question about it. It's, we're all just, people too. I mean, I've been around David when he's, been on the road and, had to take a phone call to, make sure that the kids were okay and, and still being a dad, even away from the racetrack, stuff like that. There's things that still matter beyond just the racetrack itself. Jerry, before we go, this has been a great way to end today's show, by the way. Tell us where people can follow you and see all the stuff you guys are doing this weekend at Texas and the rest of the NASCAR season.
Well, you can follow us at KickinTheTires.net. We are upgrading our servers as we speak. By the way, we are getting new servers heading into the race this weekend at Texas Motor Speedway. I've reinvested in the sites to upgrade our stuff. KickinTheTires.net. You can follow us at KickinTheTires on X. And we have the full Kicking the Tires now. We have the whole handle. Thank you, Elon Musk, for that. You can follow me personally at JerryJordan_KTT. And look, I talk about me and stuff, but honestly, Kicking the Tires is a group. I've got, 11 people: Seth Eggert, Cole Cusimano, Justin Schuler, Matt Corson, Christian Coley, Rachel Schuler, Summer Bedgood. There's so many people that help bring Kicking the Tires together, and then we come together. Zach Catanzaretti, all of these people make it what it is, and we go out there and try to bring the fans the best stories we can, and it wouldn't happen without them. I'm just the guy that signs checks and tries to make stuff happen. I don't write near as much as I used to, and I probably need to do more. But I'm out trying to earn a living and bring sponsors and bring and upgrade stuff. But those guys really bust their butts, and I thank every team member of Kicking the Tires for what they do for the site and for the organization and for racing as a whole. And thanks for bringing me on the show. I know I ramble sometimes, but you guys are my friends, and that's truly how I feel. And Dominic will tell you, Tyler will tell you, I am brutally honest at times, and I'm not afraid to hurt feelings. So
we wouldn't want it any other way, Jerry.
No, you didn't have to mention, Matt and Christian. We can leave them out. Who needs those guys? But all kidding aside, those guys are friends of the show. But nonetheless, Jerry, David, Dominic, we will see you all this weekend from Texas Motor Speedway. Should be a lot of fun. Cannot wait. We'll put the checker flag out on this episode. Make sure to subscribe to Let's Go Racing with David Starr. New episodes out each and every week. Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review, or don't leave us one at all. Hit us up on social media, on X at Starr Podcast, Twitter at Starr Podcast, and also hit us up on email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. This show, part of the Studio Soapbox Network. Check out the Jones Report, as well as the Coach Bo Knows podcast and more on all podcast platforms. And we shall see you next time right here on Let's Go Racing. For David Starr, Jerry Jordan, Dominic Aragon, I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks so long. It's been another edition of Let's Go Racing. We'll see you next week.